Hi, this is Mike Cuddy, and I'm here to talk to you about my latest project using Python and Flask and Pandas. So it's another data science project, and actually it's a redo of a project I did almost last fall or late summer, so almost a year ago now. And to start, it was a project on UFOs, and it was basically looking at UFO data. And I got it from a YouTube video series that I was watching, I think called Data School, before when I was just trying to learn pandas when I started out with it. And I was like, you know what? A great way to learn it would actually to build a project looking at this UFO data and seeing where it went over time. So it was a great way for me to really learn and understand pandas. And so here I built this project, like I said, about a year ago. And then I just finished a project that's on the website. So this one that I built a year ago, as you can see, it's on the console and it's kind of like clunky. So it goes in and it gives you like your options, the main menu. You can look at it, different options here. We can do number 4. Number 2, let's look at a graph. So we'll give it a starting year of 1930. And then this graph comes up, and it's like an interesting graph. I mean, what you can see right here, which is really interesting, is UFOs really start to peak in 1990, or about the mid to early 90s. They shoot up dramatically. I mean, almost exponentially. Over here, you have like the space race and everything like that, the space age, and so you can start to see that they go up there. And then to the mid to early 80s, they go up as well when ET came out and everything like that. So it was a interesting program. If I close this, and we can go back to the main menu, we can look at a conclusion, which I think is really badly set up. Yeah, I never actually, I mean, it's ugly. This is when I was really starting to focus on learning how to use full-blown programs with Python, and it's something I have to go back and fix. But instead of going back and fixing it, I decided to make a whole new project, like I said, out there, focusing on UFOs. And so I took this project and I kind of redid it with using Flask and Pandas and some other resources. So first, I'll talk about my technology base. As I was saying, I was using Flask, Python, Pandas, NumPy. I was using React, but that's only a very small level, which is on the home page, like the login screen, basically. And it's just a way for me to keep on kind of using it. I want to get to the point that I'm using it full-blown throughout my applications, and that will happen eventually. Instead of using MongoDB, I decided to use MySQL database for user login, and then D3JS for some of my graphs, which we'll see. And I also use Greenstock for animations in this project. So here's the link to the actual data that you could go to. And if we actually go there right now, should have already had this set up, but there it is. It's quite a lot of data. So I think it's like 18,000 points or something like that. And the data goes from 1930 to the year 2000. Okay, so now let's log in. So I created my little fictional user named Gus from a character in a book that I wrote. And we log in. We give it a second. So here we go. We have that animation from Greenstock. So you can see it's going down. And it comes all the way down here. And it essentially settles right here where we can examine the data. So I was going to have a nav bar up here, but I decided not to, just because I just wanted this page to kind of stand alone and be on its own. So here I want to believe it's from obviously the old X-Files TV show, but we have to come down to Earth. And I will say that growing up I was a big believer in UFOs, but at some point, probably around halfway through my freshman year in college, it just really didn't interest me anymore, and I just stopped like believing in them. And especially after looking at some of this data, I think it's really culturally influenced. So we come to this page over here where we finally have the nav bar. And we can look at UFOs by year, by state. So we just put this in, 125, and that goes from 1930 to 2000. By shape, we can select a circle, dish, let's just select cigar. 617 UFOs from 1930 to 2000 were cigar shaped that were reported. Year, let's look at 1954, 55. Then we can do the same thing looking at state and shape. And by color, yeah, this is the only color that I really came across in the data. There may have been one more that was there, but it was not really that many different colors. So red, green, and blue are the common colors it looks like for UFOs. So that just page uses Ajax just to get the data back. So it was a really simple kind of thing to set this all up, and it was a good way to really make me understand how to use Ajax a little bit better in this aspect. So now let's go to the graph page. And here I talk about like the graphs and what we're going to see and everything like that. Here's just another picture of a bright light over there, probably just the sun or coming in after a rainstorm. But I decided to pull in Google's Ngram viewer of the word UFO. And as you can see, it really starts to go up in the late 80s. It goes up, and this is kind of like what you'll see in the graph right below it. It's feeding, like, this is pulling all the words from, like, word UFO in a book or magazine, I believe. I think they look at magazines, just not books. But as you can see, it kind of feeds off each other. So people, it became like a whole cottage industry where people were writing more and more about UFOs, which in fact would impact culture, and people would keep on saying it. And then there would be talking to reporters, and those reporters, some of those, the UFOologists, whatever they call themselves, would write books on those things, so on those sightings. And now if we go back here, I'm using something called NVD3, which actually takes my Python code and gives me the D3 JavaScript for it, which made it much easier to use. And so in my previous murder study project, I used an image, and now I actually have a real interactive graph that you can hold like this. So it's just not that image, and it's much, much nicer. It just looks really nice, I think. The only thing I didn't do is I had to fix the date down here. So I have to eventually look into doing that. I have to admit, I've been working on this project for 2.5 weeks, a little bit each day, and I kind of just got tired of it. And I have 2, maybe 3 other project minds in my idea that in my mind that I want to work on. So I'm really just trying to wrap this project up, and I think it turned out really, really well for the most part. Just minor tweaks and things that I have to look into there, but yeah, the graph's actually interactive. And finally, what I want that I'm really glad I did is I used D3 again, and I made a map of the U.S. showing UFO sightings. And here it is. So darker green areas, as I state right there, are where more UFO sightings happen, and lighter green areas are where they're least likely to happen. So California, Washington, Texas, Florida, New York, those are some of the states that have the most UFO sightings. It also happens to be that California has a ton of military bases, and I believe Texas does too. I know Florida has, the Kennedy Space Station there, and quite a few other Air Force and naval stations as well. Pensacola, Florida, the big flight school for the Navy and Marine Corps, is right down in here in the Panhandle. So that's a kind of interesting graph right there. And again, like, the sightings shoot up, and right about 1993 they start to go up, and that's when the X-Files came on, I believe, in 1992. Unsolved Mysteries was on during this time. Sightings and numerous other shows about paranormal phenomenon came on during this time, these years as well. So that's what I think, that it's just basically a cultural phenomenon where people are watching TV shows, then they read about them in a book, and because people want to see UFOs, and so they report them, and it's just this continual cycle back and forth. People see more TV shows on it, so they think they see something up in the sky, they report it. So that's that right there. And I want to just show over here. Here is actually the NVD3 that I was using. So this all came out essentially from right here, from my Python code. So it was basically from this file right here. So all this essentially made that beautiful graph. So it's something I'm definitely going to be looking further into, is using it, and I'm really glad I found it. So that's everything right there basically for this project, and I really hope that you enjoyed watching it. A lot of it's a repeat of the murder study, and really the reason why I did this project is because I wanted to convert my old clunky UFO study into update it for a website. So it looks so much nicer this way, and it presents the same information as my previous project, but I think it looks a really nice website. I'm actually really glad of how it turned out. Like the style here, like this checkerboard pattern, I really enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you have any questions, just reach out to me. Have a great day. Mike Cuddy signing out.